Skyrim is a game with many different ways to attack people, but what if you didn't want to attack anyone at all? What if you wanted to summon people to do the work for you? Can you beat Skyrim with only summons? Now, for my race, I chose Dark Elf. For my name, I chose Revive because, well, originally this is supposed to be an Exorcist game, but I gave up on that challenge. Right before I died, I was saved by Alduin. Ironically, saved by the one dragon I was supposed to kill. How about that? Then I followed the Empire out because, well, the Stormcloaks hate lizard people, and I like sexy lizard mamas, so I guess we're just not gonna be friends. After that, since I couldn't really revive anyone or summon people, I had to hide behind and let the Empire do all the work. And by the Empire, I mean the one Imperial soldier. After running past the tutorial, I then went to the Ritual Stone, which makes it so any dead people around me suddenly become undead and technically count as a summon, which I am going to need before I can unlock any summon spells, which I would need later on in the game. So, after that, I sold as many things as I possibly could to afford some summon spells. Now, summons are part of the conjuration tree. So, after selling everything I could, I bought a zombie book and remained corpse book. Even though I had the ritual stone, I figured being able to summon zombies on my own would still be important. After that, I talked to the Jarl, as it was time for my first quest for the main story. I managed to summon a few undead with the ritual stone, but I didn't really know how well this would go. Luckily for me, they did well enough. They were extremely weak though, but there's power in numbers, so all I had to do was stay back and get enough dead people to do the work for me. And luckily for me, they were able to defeat the frost spider. So, I was one step closer to completing the main mission. So after that, I got the golden claw, stole all these things off this dead guy, and revived him so he can work for me. Yes, you will work for me, even in death. I am your overlord. After that, I just kind of ran away because all my summons were kind of dead, and I didn't really need any help, until I got to the final boss. Now, for this guy, he absolutely destroyed the undead I had at my disposal. I managed to revive a few undead, but he just destroyed them. The ritual stone had nothing on him. So, what I did was, I lured him into a trap and killed him. I actually got kind of nervous because he just stood there and looked at me and didn't even run in for a couple minutes. So I thought, was he smart enough not to? Apparently not. Unlocked Summoner, which makes summoning things way cheaper, which will definitely come in handy. Now it's time for the first dragon fight right outside of Windhelm. And yeah, this went okay. All I could really do was summon things and hide. The guards did most of the work, I am not going to lie. My weak summon didn't do a lot of damage, but eventually it did die. After the dragon was defeated, I stole all its stuff to sell because I needed stronger summon spells. After that, I tested out a glitch. You see, there is an exploit where if you spam Soul Trap on a body, you can get your conjuration up. And with this conjuration, I was able to get stronger anchors, like the Flame Anchor. Now, it was time for me to join the Empire. Now, I wanted to make this video longer, and I consider the Civil War quest a part of the main story, even if the game doesn't, because, well, it's literally the Civil War of Skyrim. I also wanted to test my Flame Anchor, so I went off to clear a bandit camp and worked out well, and General Tollus let me into the Empire. After that, it was time to serve the Empire even more, and use my Flame Anchor. However, I was jumped by cultists, but the cultists weren't that smart because they jumped me in a city full of people, so yeah, they were easily killed. However, this was actually very lucky because their clothes made magic regenerate 75% faster, which helped me out tremendously during this run, and I wore it almost all the way to the end. After that, I met up with Hadvar, as it was time for me to stop the Stormcloaks from getting a special crown. And the Empire did not help me at all, because they were bugged and wouldn't move, so I had to take them out myself. Luckily, this Flame Anchor did a lot of damage. Early on, the Flame Anchor is really good, but later on, it becomes a weak piece of trash. But for right now, it is my main source of damage. Luckily, the Empire soldiers did debugged, and they followed me in to help slaughter out some undead. And yeah, after that, I went back to General Talus, and he told me what to do. So I went to Whiterun, and it was time to defend Whiterun, because the dirty Stormcloaks want to take it over. And technically I could just stop here and then go back to the main mission, because I won't need the truce after this, but I wanted to finish the quest anyway for some XP and to test out my conjuration, so we're gonna do more after the defense of Whiterun. The Stormcloaks tried to charge in, but I decided to jump in from the side. My plan was to let the Flame Anchor flank them. As I hid behind, and anytime it died, I would simply summon another one. And yeah, this actually worked out pretty well. Of course, these quests weren't supposed to be hard. Even so, I was impressed with how well my Flame Anchors can do. As then it was time for the next quest. So, it was time for me to sabotage the Stormcloaks' plans by killing the guy with the plans and then giving it to the general. And yeah, the guy put up somewhat of a fight, but he was no match for my Flame Anchor. After that, I went to the general. He was like, "Why aren't you wearing your armor?" I'm like, "I'm in incognito." And he said, "That's brilliant, have a drink." After that, it was time to attack a fort owned by the Stormcloaks, so obviously this is going to be a very hard quest. Just kidding. I did destroy an entire army of them. Granted, I don't have an army backing me up, but all I had to do was stay away and make sure they couldn't really get to me. Then I just spam Fire Anchor. After that, I then got better conjurations because, well, that is the point of this entire challenge, is it not? Then I stole something to blackmail Jarl, you know, just normal Imperial stuff. And they told me where the Stormcloaks were keeping a bunch of valuables. So I met with Hagvar and we were going to rob the Stormcloaks. And it was finally time for me to test out my Frost Anchor, which did pretty well. The Frost Anchor is the second best anchor, only below the Storm Anchor, and is a very solid one. But it doesn't really do well against frost enemies and things like that, and can get overwhelmed. But other than that, it is definitely a solid anchor. And don't worry, I will get the Storm Anchor later, but for right now, I don't have enough magic, so the Frost Anchor is all I got. Don't worry. It easily takes care of Stormcloak scum, and I was even able to free a few hostages with my lockpick, which is nice. As I freed them, they told me good job, and then I let them out to help me in the fight. The fight got somewhat difficult when they surrounded me, but as soon as I was able to create distance between us, I was easily able to take care of them. After all, my Frost Anchor did take up a lot of the damage. However, there was one big problem. When I ran out of magic, I couldn't summon an anchor. But even though I had this problem, I was able to take them down. Next, it was time for me to go to another fort and take down more Stormcloaks. Luckily, this was the last fort quest, and since I already knew what I was doing from the last quest, I was way more prepared, as I was way less risky. Now it was finally time to kill Ulfric and bring order back to the Empire, as my Frost Anchors easily took care of the Stormcloaks and whatever they had. Not to mention that the Empire Imperial Guards were pretty strong. Eventually we made it in, and the Stormcloaks were no match for my anchors. After defeating him, he asked me to kill him, but I said no, because that's against the challenge, and I let General Talus do it for me instead. Long live the Empire, but he just kind of walked into him for some reason, didn't do anything. Until eventually he killed him. I don't know if it was bugged or what, but that was the longest amount of time I had to wait for him to kill him. But no time to think about that. Now it was time to go back to the main quest, as I would see how well Frost Anchors would do. And the Frost Anchors didn't do too well against these magicians because, well, they were somewhat resistant to frost. But since they were low level, he was able to take them out, and I was able to use the ritual stone to get these magicians on my side. But I got a note saying that someone else already took Dragonhorn, so it was time for me to meet the Blades, as I talked to Delphine, and Delphine told me about a secret room. After that, we went out and fought the dragon. Now, this dragon was somewhat tricky because I wasn't able to kill it before it was revived because, well, it takes a while to summon anchors, but my Frost Anchor was eventually able to do the deed and kill the dragon, even though it did take some time. And by time, I mean lots of time, because dragons like to do this thing called fly away. Whenever the dragon flew, though, I did summon a Flame Anchor. I would wait for it to fly, summon a Flame Anchor, and whenever it landed, I summoned a Frost Anchor, because Frost Anchors did more damage, but Flame Anchors had more range. So after doing this anchor trick over and over again, eventually the dragon died, I absorbed its soul, and I proved that I was the Dragonborn once again. Now, it was time. Then got the ingredients for a Storm Anchor. If you want to know how to summon them, I'll leave a link in the video below, because I found a helpful tutorial how to get it, and it was very useful. Now it was time for me to join a Thalmor party. so I could sneak in and discover what they know about the dragon. Spoiler alert, they don't know much. As I was sneaking in, I was greeted with beer and food, my favorite things. But as I snuck in, I got caught, so it was time for me to summon my Stormmaker and have them fight. And the Stormmaker whooped butt. This is the second best summon in the game, so it worked out very well. And why didn't I get the first best summon in the game? Didn't have enough magic, then I forgot about it and never used it throughout this challenge. Womp womp womp, I know. But anyway, the Stormmaker was definitely more than enough. Some of the wizards did have some resistance to electricity, so they were a pain. But after they were defeated, I was able to use the Ritual Stone, and they joined my forces. So with my undead army and the Stormmaker, we easily made it in, and even freed a prisoner. And for once, this guy did not die. Hip hip hooray, I'm a hero. After that, I went back, and I talked to Brainwolf, and he told me where to find the old man, who I was supposed to find. And yeah, the Stormmakers clearly cleared out anything that was in my way. We did bump into a few problems because the corridors were pretty cramped and the Stormmakers would sometimes glitch and get stuck. But anytime that didn't happen, we were all good. As I was able to find Esben, the last blade. That and the woman no one likes. That she's not even good enough for me to name her name. As then I watched my Stormmaker easily clear out some fodder, ran away, and yeah, pretty easy dungeon honestly. I did get stuck sometimes, but anytime it was a challenge is because I didn't know where the heck I'm going, because I have the direction skills of a 5-year-old on something. Yeah, I get lost in every Skyrim and Fallout game, not gonna lie. Anyway, then I used my blood to open something, some cult stuff, and then I went to the Temple of Heaven to try to find out a way to defeat Olwyn. As then after that, I decided to use Soul Trap on a dead body to get up my conjuration so I can get to 100. Because if you get to 100, you can sum up 2 conjurations. And eventually, I did manage to get to 100. So I was going to be able to summon 2 anchors, which means I was going to be able to summon 2 Stormmakers. Some of the most powerful summons in the entire game. So, that's nice. So yep, I leveled it up, got twin souls, and I was pretty much set for the rest of the challenge. After that, I met with the Greybeards. After that, I learned a shout that can clear out the sky, so I can meet with my new master, to learn how to defeat Alduin once and for all. And yeah, learning with the Greybeards wasn't that difficult. Eventually, I asked to know about this shout, and he said, you're gonna have to go up the mountain. I was like, oh, okay, sounds easy enough. Yeah, I don't really why I kept all that in, honestly. I could have just cut to the part where I cleared out the clouds, but, you live and you learn. So after clearing out the clouds, I then met with Parthenax, who is a dragon, who the Blades always ask me to kill, but I never do, because Parthenax is such a cool character. Why would you ever kill him? I mean, look at this thing. Look at this beast. That's just awesome. After that, I went to the College of Windhelm, not to learn a spell, however, but to get to the Elder Scroll. Then, I went off to find this crazy wizard who ran away, and then went off into the dungeon. Fight some dwarf spiders. Now, these spiders were actually really easy. They did barely any damage to me. All I had to do was run away and let my anchor deal with them, like the whole point of the challenge. Now, going on into the dungeon, things did get a bit harder, but my anchors really did distract them, so I was easily able to get the Dragon Scroll. With the Dragon Scroll in my hand, I then went to see the past and see how they defeated Alduin. After looking through the past like I'm Samurai Jack, if you got that reference, we're automatically best friends. If not, then leave my channel. Just kidding, please don't leave. I then knew how to do it. As conveniently as that, Alduin showed up, so I used my spell to force him to the ground. And anytime he was forced to the ground, I would just summon my anchors. Yeah, I wish I didn't have to use shouts, but sadly I did for part of the story, so I would just use my shouts to force Alduin to the ground, and then I would summon my anchors, and then they would blast him with electricity to try to kill him. And eventually I was able to defeat him, and he was forced to leave. Because I am the man. Oh yeah. With Alduin defeated, I then trapped a dragon, and he told me where he was heading, and he was going into the afterlife, and I was going to have to go to the land of the dead. So I rode a dragon, didn't have to show that part, but I thought that part was epic, so I showed it anyway, have no regrets. On the way, I ran into a few dragons, but it was extremely easy. I used the same trick on Alduin, and since the trap shout doesn't do any damage, it just forced him to the ground, I decided to allow it. And yeah, he was easily defeated almost instantaneously. Revive, don't mess around. Afterwards, I did have a bit of a problem with this, but yeah. Sadly, I wanted to record this fight, but I forgot to, so whoops. So anyway, I got the staff, and then I went into the portal, and it was time to fight Alduin, the final battle, once and for all. But before I could do that, I had to prove that I was worthy, so I fought this giant half-naked man by submarine anchors that shot electricity at him. Who wins? Naked man with a hammer, or giant boulders that shoot electricity? Apparently, the boulders win, and he decided to let me in. After being let in, it was time for my final battle with Alduin, which went the exact same. Spoiler alert, you have to do the final blow, so after he was defeated, I did have to punch him, meaning technically you can't really beat the game this way. But you don't really gain his soul, so you could say you never really killed him. So, maybe you can, I don't know. Either way, this was a very fun challenge, and my anchors were able to do all the damage, I just had to punch him off screen. After that, Alduin was defeated, and I beat Skyrim with only summons, except for the last part. Proven, can you beat Skyrim with only summons? Yes and no. Hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share it with your friends. And have a good day. Peace out.